Welcome to our announcement of the next season that we plan on putting on this stage in 2017-18. But first, I want to toast to the current season and all of you, our loved ones and sponsors and friends. Here's to our 16-17 season. How's that apple cider?
Great.
It's good. All right. So, putting a season together is a long process. We are already working on the 18-19 season. It takes a while. We want to do shows that are exciting, that fit our mission. I always look at planning a season like planning a meal, which I also love to do. And like every course wants to be unique and different, but they all want to kind of add up to a really varied and interesting dinner. And so we'll find a play we really love, and we'll get the rights to it. And then we'll find another play that we think goes really well kind of next to it, where they're different but complementary, and then we don't get the rights to that one. And then the one we do get doesn't go with the first one. And then the third one doesn't go with the second one. And it keeps going back and forth for like the whole year until you finally kind of hone it down to, I think in a way, first and foremost, plays that the two of us are really passionate about wanting to spend a lot of time on. Each play, I'm starting rehearsal for On the 20th Century in 2 weeks. I started work on that play a year ago. And so the culmination, the first day of rehearsal for me is like putting into action everything that we've already prepared. So you better really love the plays you're picking, or they don't fit the text, you know? You have to keep rereading them. Does it still excite me? Does it give me reasons to want to speak? So like when we are looking at plays together, I'll throw a title over to Robbie and say, what do you think about that play? And I really kind of only want to see Robbie doing plays Robbie really wants to do, you know? I don't want to assign him anything. I don't want to assign myself anything. And so what happens is you spend a lot of time trying to balance different titles. You have a lot of high hopes for one, you don't get the rights to it, you find another one that makes you excited. You want to wait till the last minute in case something really exciting pops up. So for us, the culmination of finally announcing this season is pretty exciting. Is the culmination of kind of about a year's worth of time and thought. So if you hate it, don't tell us. No, I'm kidding. So that being said, we have, I think, some really exciting things going on. One of our goals this year, as we were looking at titles, were to include plays that feature women, actresses, playwrights. And so that was one of our filters. We're trying to open up in terms of the diversity that you see on skin color on our stage. And we're trying to do that not only through the play selections, but also by being more open in terms of casting. So casting against kind of traditional types. Those were our two kind of filters over and above our usual filters. And so I think you'll see that reflected in some of the plays we've chosen. So should we start? Do you want to say anything? Oh, say something.
Yeah, those two filters, and also, you know, we put together this season that one of the big pillars of Cygnet's mission is to ignite debate and start a conversation. And I think that this season, 15th season, right, is, it really starts a great conversation because of all of the plays that we've picked and musicals are dealing in some ways about, they're telling stories about people that are marginalized, people that don't really have a voice, and we're giving them a bullhorn to have a voice and tell their story on our stage, which I think in the modern climate is a very important thing to do.
I think family is also something. There's a lot of different interpretations of what a family is that you'll see throughout the season, with the possible exception of the first show, which kind of defies logic. But yeah, so this is our 15th season coming up, which means when we opened our theater, someone who was born is about to learn to drive. And so that's a little daunting. So the first show that we're going to do, I saw in Ashland about 3 years ago. And it is something that I found one of the funniest things I've ever seen, which I would kind of hate to say because then I feel obligated to make it as funny. But it's a absolutely hilarious show. It's a musical. It's the Animal Crackers, the Marx Brothers Animal Crackers. It's an adaptation for 9 actors. This particular version of the musical, apart from the Marx Brothers themselves, everyone plays like 3 or 4 roles, and the gimmick of the show is that you run off stage, change your wig, and run right back on stage. And maybe even in some cases you change your wig on stage. It's a tour de force show for 9 people. When they were on Broadway, they were notorious for their improvisation within the script. That they were famous, their comedy is built around anarchy and poking pins in the stuffed hot balloons of society. And so when the Marx Brothers let loose on the Broadway stage, there's a famous quote where George S. Kaufman, who wrote the book for it, was standing in the back of the stalls watching a performance. And at one point, he's just kind of chatting with one of his friends. He stops and he looked out. He's like, his friend said, "What is it?" "I think I heard one of my lines." Well, when I saw it in Ashland, oh my God, it was great. It was great. Let me tell you. And I've got a couple people that we've got cast already. Josh Odess Rubin, who is in Bad Shoes right now, will be playing our Groucho Marx character. And then the other 2 are Katie Banville, who's here somewhere, and her charming husband, Brian Banville, will be playing ingenues together. This year, we're not going to do our rep format in the fall. We're doing 2 different shows. And the first show that we're doing in the fall is something that Robbie mentioned when I first met him, actually. Like, it's something that I thought he was very passionate about. And we kept saying, well, when are we going to work that into the season? And I think we have. You want to tell us what that is? And why you're passionate about it?
Well, it's one of my favorite plays. It won the Pulitzer Prize in 1971. It's written by a science teacher turned playwright named Paul Zindel, and the play was turned into a movie that Paul Newman directed, The Effects of Gamma Rays on Man and Women Marigolds. And it's seldom produced. I don't know why. I think it's, in my opinion, up there with the great works of a great American classic, with anything that Tennessee Williams wrote or Arthur Miller. It tells a story about a single mother in 1971 who lives by the motto, "Do unto others before they do unto you."
Perfect.
She grew up in a very terrible home, and now her 2 little girls, who are both in high school, are dealing with the repercussions of that. And it follows the central character of this little girl named Tilly, Matilda, and she has a strong relationship with her science teacher, and she uses a science project as a metaphor for how her mother treats herself and her sister. It's a beautiful, beautiful story about a single mother raising 2 girls, and their live-in elderly woman who has dementia is very funny, but also a tragic, tragic story.
You worked on this in the School of the Arts.
Yeah, it was my thesis show, yeah.
And so how does it feel getting back to it with some years between them?
Incredible, because at the time I was kind of relying on myself for a lot of this show has a very poetic aspect to it. There's some monologues that have a very kind of lyric feel, and now I've worked with Michael Mizrahi so much as a choreographer. Many of you know his work. And he has agreed to collaborate with me for some of that kind of poetic sensibility that drives the undercurrent of the play. So I'm super excited about that.
We're going to do the San Diego premiere called The Legend of Georgia McBride. And The Legend of Georgia McBride was an off-Broadway, a new show off-Broadway. And Dave Thomas Brown, who played our Mercutio in R&J and our Melchior in Spring Awakening, created the original role of, what's his name? Chris, Sammy, I don't remember his real name. Jason, yeah. Jason? Casey. Thank you, I've read the play, I promise. But Dave created the role of Casey, and he won an award for it in New York, and so Bill and I went to go see him in it, and we loved this play. This play is, it's about a straight Elvis impersonator who is got an African-American girlfriend who's pregnant, and they're about to be evicted from their apartment, and he suddenly loses his job as an Elvis impersonator at this kind of struggling bar. And the owner of the bar has brought in a drag company to come in and sort of change the entertainment, change the bar up a little bit. And one of the drag queens is incapacitated and passes out, and suddenly Casey finds himself getting put into a dress and shoved on stage. And he suddenly starts to take to drag so well that he becomes the legend of Georgia McBride. And suddenly this straight guy with a girlfriend who's trying to hide the fact that he's now the region's most famous drag queen has to find a way to follow his talent, as he suddenly has found it, like, this is my talent. It doesn't fit anybody else's paradigms. And how do I have it all? How do I have my family, and how do I have my job? And through the nurturing and mentorship of the leading lady who comes in, Miss Tracy Mills, Tracy Mills becomes his drag mother in a way. And I'm very fortunate and happy to have David McBean, who we play Miss Tracy Mills, in this play. I find the play is about people finding their heart, finding what they do well, and finding family. And so it's a fabulous show. It's a really fabulous show with a lot of great performing numbers in it as well. So there's that.
It's written, if anyone saw The Whipping Man, it's by that same playwright.
We'll be doing A Christmas Carol after that. A Christmas Carol this year sold better than any Christmas show we've done yet. And so our Christmas Carol is starting to become a tradition for those who want it to be a tradition. And so we're very excited about the way that show is being accepted by the community. And so we're doing that one again, also starring David McBean. Keeping David employed through the fall and winter. In the fall of last year, Bill and I joined a group of friends, and we went to Stratford in Canada, and we met a playwright there named Kate Hennig, who she's an actress and a playwright, Canadian playwright. We did a workshop with her because she was writing a new play for this current season. It's now going to be in the current season at Stratford. And it's part 2 of a trilogy that she's writing about women in the Tudor era. And the show that she had written the year before, which was a monster hit for Stratford and only produced in this country once time in Chicago, is the story of Catherine Parr and Henry VIII. It's called The Last Wife. And Kate Hennig told us that she's trying to write history through a feminist filter. That she wants to take stories that are known to be very male-centric, the story of Henry VIII. And through her feminist filter, letting us learn that the women in his life actually played, in a way, a more important part. And that, and so anyway, it's an amazing show called The Last Wife. Robbie's directing it, so I should be letting you talk about it.
No, it's a great pitch. I mean, when you hear Catherine Parr's name, I think most people say, "Oh, she's the last wife that wasn't killed off by Henry VIII, and she survived, right? She's the survivor." But she's so much more than that. I mean, when she agreed to marry Henry VIII, and this all happens in the play, which is a modern telling in contemporary dress and language, you know, they say things like, holy crap. But in the play, before she agrees to marry him, she says, you have to let me not only educate your son, Edward, you have to let me educate your two daughters, Mary and Elizabeth. And he agrees to it, one of the lines is something like, oh, she's just trying to make a school for queens, which we now know, I mean, two of those, they did become queen. But she fought for the rights of his daughters. Also, a history that no one really talks about is that she was basically the head of state and the Secretary of Defense in some ways when he was off gallivanting, being a tyrant nincompoop. I mean, she really took care of everything and had to kind of negotiate a way around because she still kept a lover the whole time, which is in the play. So it's a fascinating story, and I'm really excited to tell that one.
So, in the spring, we are looking for our 15th anniversary to bring back a musical we did 10 years ago. The first show we did in this space, A Little Night Music. And so we'll be bringing that one back, a slightly different cast. Some are the same, some of them are here tonight. And I'm being forced to play Frederick again. But anyway, this is another musical that is so smart and so adult and so perfectly written that the things that you see in it 10 years ago when you're 45 might be different when you're 55. And so I feel like there's just more to it. And I'm looking forward to bringing that one back. Bill and Judy Garrett, who are here, you know, they are the sponsors of our Finish Line, which we'd like to thank them for. And the Finish Line, for those of you who maybe missed it, what we're doing, what Robbie, you talk about it, it's your program. Robbie put this together. It's an amazingly fabulous, very original program. You want to talk about what that program's all about and how it led to the next show?
Did you want to say the one actor that you didn't mention that's not here that you've already cast in Little Night Music?
Oh yeah, maybe. Yes, I should. So Carol Foreman, who played the mother in Stupid Fucking Bird, Carol Foreman will be coming down and playing Desiree Armfeldt in Little Night Music.
Finish Line Commission, the Village of Judy Garrett Finish Line Commission is, it was just kind of like, you know, I have lots of playwriting friends. I'm constantly trying to keep my finger on the pulse of new playwrights, what theater companies are doing to foster new talent. And the one thing that there doesn't really exist is a program for playwrights to finish something that they can't really find a home for whatever reason that may be. And so that's what we put together, was a program for emerging playwrights who have commissions, who have, you know, our last year's playwright had a show running off Broadway at New York Theater Workshop, but he came out and he worked on a passion project. So lots of these commissions we're giving are for playwrights to do a play that's been maybe sitting on their shelf for a while that they can't really find a home for. It doesn't really have a good pitch to a theater company, but it is the passion play for them. And so, want me to say?
Yeah.
So this past year we did Nathan Allen Davis's The Wind and the Breeze. And we thought it was a very successful workshop, so we are producing the world premiere of The Wind and the Breeze, which is a story about heroes in the Black community. It's set in Rockford, Illinois. It's about young MCs trying to make a dream happen. It's about the big moments in your life where you have to make huge decisions about, do I follow my dream or do I choose something more practical? I love the play. I mean, I think it's a beautifully written play. It's a subtle play. And I'm excited to work with Nathan again. He's one of my favorite playwrights. I've known him since I worked at the Kennedy Center, and his plays are getting picked up and produced everywhere. Arena Stage just agreed to do one of his plays. I mean, he's a great playwright, and I thank you for letting him come out and workshop the play.
So that's our season. Animal Crackers, Marigolds, George and McBride, Christmas Carol, Last Wife, Light Music, Wind in the Breeze. I think it's very exciting. I mean, we have some classics, we have some reprises, we have a world premiere. It's very exciting.